Good afternoon. Good after. Well, it's still good morning. Just time is flying when you got 60-degree weather in December 1. But welcome everybody. I see people are starting to join. Share this out to your networks. Let us know you're here. We got a great day today. As you know, Sonia's on vacation, but we got our wonderful parent organizing team in the building. We got Mr. Torvis Gardner. We got Mr. Thomas Driver. If you guys can adjust your camera. I think we just lost Torvis, but we got some good things to talk about. And Thomas, I'm gonna pass to you, but I'm gonna just go down the line. We want to, take some time and talk about some of the things happening in Metro. We want to highlight a school that's making its way to the state championship. We want to read a few articles that talk about the graduation rate. Want to talk about 5th grade officially coming back into Metro and how that's going to go. Want to ask you guys some questions. As Thomas leads that, like, what are we hearing from parents as we start to near the end of the first semester? I want to hear what's going on. And then we want to get a little deeper and really talk about kind of the violence that we see that's happening in and around Nashville. But before we go into that, Thomas, how you doing, sir? I see Miss Chumley checking in. How you doing? We saw at the Halloween event with our wonderful kids, but how's your week started off on this hump day, Mr. Driver? It's on mute.
It's going well. Exciting. Coming off of Thanksgiving, things of that nature.
Yes. And I see we got Mr. Gardner on here as the man with the plan. How's your week been going for you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Okay, you mean it's been going all right. The weather's up and down. One day is hot, one day is cold, one day is chilly. I mean, you don't know what to do. Bipolar weather, I guess.
Man, they said it's like the stock market, man. It's in and around. And like I said, as you guys get a chance, as you see at the bottom, share this out to your networks. Let us know. Send it to your people. But the first thing we want to talk through, I think it's a little bit of an echo. The first thing we want to talk to is just one, we want to celebrate East. East Highs in the state championship. I believe they'll be playing this Friday at 11. But really wanted to send a big shout out to the East Eagles as they're playing in their first championship. And Thomas, try to cut a little bit of your audio because I think you might have two devices and it's picking up just a little bit. But yeah, so they're in the championship. They've had an up and down season, but when they made it to the playoffs, they just kept going strong. And it was kind of amazing to see a group of kids from East Nashville make it to the state. So the good people, the good parents at Nashville Propel just want to send you guys all the positive vibes, hitting hard, and bring the championship back to East Nashville. I think the coach is definitely a Stratford alum, as well as the principal is a Stratford alum. So go Spartans. Have you guys been following the football season for East?
I haven't really been following a lot of football, really, to be honest with you. It's been so many different things going on. But I did see that they were going to the championship, and you want to celebrate people, kids in the neighborhood that you know.
Yep.
So yeah, it's good. I mean, we'll be watching and room for them. So,
Amen. And then Thomas, I want to dig. We had a big discussion even within our internal team, and Torv, feel free to jump in. But during the speaker series, we had the opportunity to watch the documentary By Design, Nashville Public Schools. And we'll pull up a quick excerpt. But before we pull it up, just what were some of you guys' thoughts on that documentary?
I mean, it's a lot of information that people just don't know.
Yeah.
Even being in the city where you live in, a lot of people just don't know the history of education in Nashville. But if you know the history, that's what everything's going on. If you know the history, you're going to know the future of it, and you're going to know why things happen the way they happen. Because a lot has never really changed. I guess that's why it's such a big thing now, where everybody want to water down history. Because it was real. A lot of people eyes was open, a lot of people hurt, and a lot of people got a lot of understanding of what's going on now from it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a good thing for everybody to see, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah. What about you, Thomas?
Yeah, there's certain parts in there that, it breaks your heart. It definitely shows how far we have came and how far we still have to go.
Man, that's a
Yeah.
good way to put it. How far we have come, but how far we still have to go. Yeah, and I think for myself, like I said, I've seen it. That was the third time, and it still hits me like, man, we got a lot of work to do. Because everything that I was seeing on the video back from the 60s are things that we're dealing with now in Nashville. As they talk about the planning department and really dictating where schools are, how property lines go, what neighborhoods just disappear. And yeah, we know that's happening right now. And I'll play a little bit of that just so people can see what we're talking about. And then we'll jump back into the discussion.
I thought I belonged there with all the other kids, but other people saw it different. My dad was a farmer prior to going to the war. When I look at myself as a 6-year-old in the pictures, my father is looking ahead. And so that lets me know that he was leading by example of how he wanted me to be calm, not fearful, because I was going to school. And that was the emphasis.
That morning was marred by having to walk a gauntlet.
And that's just an excerpt. Like I said, if you get a chance, guys, if you're listening to us today, like go check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on the National Public Education Foundation website. But as it talks about by design, it really breaks down Nashville, our education history, our planning history, our race relations history, all under an hour. So it was one of the better documentaries I've seen. And I see Big Nas says, just glad to be a part. Never mind, I love everybody under this text. Man, we appreciate that and glad to have you back on. One of the things I want to transition to is to talk about the graduation, right? Like as we think about how are you ready for success in Nashville, in this world? I think the first things that you have to go through is you have to actually graduate from high school. And one of the reports that we're going to go over talks about how the graduation rate has actually dipped the last 2 years in a row, which for some, they can say that's no problem. It's only the pandemic. But if you have had kids, nieces, nephews going through the pandemic, you know it. And sometimes it's actually easier to graduate, especially with this credit recovery, as I've seen personally. But one of the things we just want to highlight this, and then Torvis and Thomas, I want to get you guys' perspective on what you think about the article. Let me pull this up. And how does that look? Is that? Let me blow it up just a little bit. Okay. So it says the percentage of students graduating high school on time in Tennessee continues to drop during the pandemic. After nearly a decade-long climb, the state's graduation rate has dropped 2 years in a row, with about 88.7% of students graduating on time, compared to 89.6% the year before. And then it says 3 of the state's 4 largest urban school districts also saw their graduation rates decline, with Shelby County's rate remaining stagnant, according to data released by the Department of Education. Education Commissioner Penny Swin said the state is committed to combating the effects of the coronavirus on student learning, including supporting soon-to-be high school graduates. And so with that, as you guys hear that and you read that, what are some of the things that go through you guys' mind that you think about in reference to the declining graduation rate?
I mean, the pandemic has been blamed for everything under the sun. So you knew it was going to be said. The pandemic had something to do with it. But I'm still thinking if you had the quality of learning, the quality virtual learning, and still getting quality instruction, you would still be doing your work and doing your tasks to be able to graduate. My thing about it is I'm more concerned about the graduation rate is failing, but I'm also concerned about the graduation. These kids are graduating and they not, man, it's a lot of stuff they just can't do when they graduate. I mean,
Yeah, and talk about that.
my niece graduated, man, and I gave her a check, and I was like, okay, you need to sign the check. I can't sign no check. What you mean? She printed my name. Now you need to sign the check. We don't do cursive writing. What you mean you don't do cursive writing? So that means you'll never be able to sign a legal document? Oh, we don't do that anymore. I heard they're taking out analog clocks. I mean, so it's a lot of stuff that's being watered down as far as the kids graduate. I go to a store and give the kids some money with this new math, and they give me back I told the 1689, they give me back 1689. And I can sit there and see them in their head, they're thinking about the flat stick dots and all this mess. So, I mean, I'm like, it's really, I guess when we graduated, we just prepared for something. It might not be for college, but we just prepared to even go out into the world to do something. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking about.
Yeah, and Allison is commenting, she says, I think about my own child and how this is not great for us. She's concerned about how this impacts the economic development and that of Nashville when our children are not prepared. And then she just ends with, I just feels like the schools are not challenging enough. And Thomas, for you to have, a kid in high school and a kid in elementary, like as you see Nashville growing and you read the article around graduation rates, what are some of the things that you're thinking through?
The community has a lot of things going on. Going back to the video, I just believe that education should be put back first. It should be at the forefront of the community. And until it's back at the forefront, a lot of these things will, continue. The graduation situation, I just believe it's the communication from administration on down. I think that money is no longer the issue. We can look at COVID as, a terrible thing, or we could look at COVID as, what are we going to do about it? Because it's already the situation that it is. So the money is there, the communication, being on eye level with parents. I think the timing is now, and every semester it's more and more interesting, and I think that the kids somewhat forgot about, and they didn't ask for COVID. They're going through things that me, my mother, grandmother, great grandfather, we didn't have to go through these things. So I don't think it's the kids' fault. I don't think it's the parents' fault. I think communication needs to be on eye level with the expectations that's asked of those in the community. You're on mute.
Yeah, and sorry about that. I was on mute. That was loaded. And I think this is a good question, and Torvis, I would love if you can answer this. She asks, how can we advocate for our children as parents not in MNPS yet? So they don't have kids that haven't made it to kindergarten or some of the pre-K 3 classes, but how do they advocate, like in your world and you working with parents?
I mean, the first thing is getting information. Uh, Start working on it now. Studies show that, I mean, even Christian said that before, the kids come into school behind. So we've always said you need to work on early childhood development to work on something before that. So it's not just reading to your child while they in your stomach and all that stuff. So learning the information now versus waiting to get into it, like most parents wait to the third. I mean, most system wait to the third grade to decide they can read and write or not. You need to know that beforehand. So it's like getting out there and getting the information now and to seeing what you're coming into. Our job is to protect our kids. And it's almost like if you're going to send them to somebody's house, you're going to find out about their house before they go over there. You're not going to wait till they get over to find out what's going on. So advocate for your child now before it's time to advocate. It's almost like we always say, being a friend before you need a friend. So get out there and get the information now and see what you can put your child into. And even with that being said, I guess it's almost like now you got to go back to school because everything is totally different now than when we went to school in most places. Let's put it that way. I know on up the street, they doing stuff the same way we done it. You can help your child out. A lot of the new stuff that a lot of the parents were left behind before, and then a lot of parents just don't know it. And even if you did know it, I mean, I was good in math with trigonometry and all that stuff.
Yep.
But then when I got to college, it's like, oh, you got to take basic math. Now here I am, 20 plus 20. I'm paying for this. Oh, you got to go to some school play football. I'm like, I knew all this stuff, but really, I was really, I guess, tricked. I wasn't prepared to go to college. So you got to really humble yourself as well to figure some of this stuff out. Because some of the stuff me and my child be fighting with, man, it's a war. And some of the stuff it don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And so I know it don't make sense to them. They're learning 4 or 5 different ways to do something. And they only know one. They don't even know the first way how to do it. So how you gonna teach me 4 or 5 ways to do something? I don't even know the first way. But that goes back into our individual learning plan. If you got 5 or 6 ways to learn something, I understand that. But let's find out the way you do it, and you do it, and let's go from there.
And let's see what works. Yeah, and just to keep digging in on that, like how do we focus on moving forward and ensuring that, kids who graduate from metro schools are prepared for the world ahead. Torbers, I think you just said it, like the individualized or personalized learning plan. So I read something this morning in the news where they said at the state of Tennessee, they spent $75 million on contract tracing, right? Which was kind of alarming. It was on a no bid contract. And I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't alarming that they spent $75 million. It was alarming that they had money to spend $75 million, but they didn't even believe that they should be wearing masks. You know what I mean? So it was heard every time, like, we don't need masks. They come in the chambers not wearing masks. The coronavirus is not real, but a no bid contract got $75 million. And so I'm connecting that to as a system, whether it's the state system, the local system, the federal system, education, affordable housing, we can do what the hell we want to do if we want to. We can have the money for it if we want to. I was talking to some bus monitors, and they were like, look, man, they giving us, the lowest amount of money. They ain't got no money. But then you look at people were getting raises, $30,000 raises that add on each year through the pandemic. And they were like, man, why couldn't you just give me some of that? And so I think connecting it to how do we make sure they're prepared? We got to hold the system accountable. We got to say, how do we get started before our kids even jump in? Man, reach out to Torvis and Thomas, and let's see how we can make this thing work. Because I think we gotta hold them accountable to the rules that they created, because they create the rules and they still don't hold themselves to the rules.
Well, even with that being said, they said that some schools were so successful, and they paid these teachers. Man, these teachers are making $200-300 a day. How you gonna pay them $200-300 a day for these 4 weeks of summer school, and you ain't paying them that when they teach these kids all through the whole year? So it's a lot of money thrown around. But when we gonna throw some money on the tutoring, it's gonna really help the child. All these kids are behind. All these kids have learning loss, and a lot of the kids didn't even know it. So if you're gonna spend that type of money on contact tracing, which really didn't make a difference now, because now they finna lex the laws where you ain't gotta wear no masks.
Right.
So I know it's spent for nothing. But if you were to put that money into tutoring a child, I bet you by now the child would know how to do 2 plus 2.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to write, they know how to do something.
What are you thinking, Thomas?
I would definitely say for all of those who, just had babies or, their kids are not, in pre-K or anything uh, of that nature, I would join Nashville Propel. I think knowing the information ahead of time, if you really, really seriously, really care about their academics, and you want the best for your child, I would say join early. Like don't wait till your kids are in kindergarten, first grade. That's of course that's a great thing. But for the question that was asked, go ahead on and sign on up and join early. That way you're 2-3 years already in on the information, and we're on the information 24 hours, 365 days a year. So when you're at work or when you're taking care of certain things, there's always someone in Nashville Propel here to answer your question, and willing to go take down whoever needs to be taken down when it comes to the benefits of our kids. So there's not another organization that I know of here that fights neck and neck, going to schools with you. We do everything when it comes to the betterment of our kids, and the time is now.
Well, I'll say this too, John. I
Okay.
ain't gonna say no. I ain't gonna say no name, Joyce. But when I was fighting with my child, he was in Ross County at the time, and I was fighting, and I didn't have my daughter at the time. But my wife was like, "Oh, the school, they go going to school, this and that." But then when it was time for Trinity to go to school, she saw a lot of the stuff that I've been fighting for and talking about, and she couldn't believe it. It was like disheartening her. I didn't go to school. And I got this lottery, and she had to do a whole lot of work to get our child where she is now. It was a whole lot of work. I think the school she supposed to be in zone to was kindergarten was like 934th in the state. How you got a kindergarten 934th in the state? You ain't doing but colors and stuff like that. So it was so disheartening to her. Be like, the school system is like that. I'm like, yeah, it's like that. So, like I said, once she had the child, it was like now she's in the fight with the education. She's fighting and seeing stuff every day and stuff that don't make sense. So a lot of people don't understand it until they actually go into it. But what we're saying is, if you have a child,
Yeah.
go ahead and get into it beforehand, because guess what? It's gonna knock on your doorstep. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to deal with it. So.
Whether you the PTO president or the parent who helped walk the kids to school, we done seen it. And I'll say Ivory Wilson, she started right as her child before he got even pre-K ready. And I think walking into his Head Start program, they already knew who she was, saw op-ed, saw her advocating, and they didn't want to mess around because they was like, okay, this lady, she got power. And it's unfortunate that you got to come with your shield of, man, I ain't the one, because it shouldn't even have to be like that. But nowadays, that's what we see. And Miss Bennett talks about, and I know Miss Bennett has tried all the types of school, but she says she watch a video on YouTube, learn the concept. She makes sure a child watch the video and they work through multiple problems. I think this is a community issue that we got to realize. And again, people be looking to point fingers, and I'm just pointing fingers as a system. It's hard for people to focus on the education if you got them in the dumps. You ain't educating them. If my mom couldn't read, she ain't gonna be able to teach me how to read. And so how can we break the cycle? The only way we can do it is if we come together and help that parent who can't read get a chance to read, but also at the same time making sure her daughter or her son get the services they need.
Yeah, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's when if you don't know something, answer the question. There's no stupid question. A lot of people feel like they're ashamed, but the system was designed for you not to know for anything. I mean, you go back to slavery. It's like, oh, you can be free if you can read, but if you can read, they can kill you. So are you gonna act like you can read or not? I mean, so it's nothing to be ashamed of if you need help. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, I need help with some of this stuff.
Come on now, I need help too. Come on, put me on the homework hotline.
I said, I mean, I'm going to go back to school. I'm about to go sit in the classroom and figure out what are you doing here? You know.
Yeah,
So
I said in a
it's
high school classroom, they were doing polynomials and binomials, and come on now, I was in there with my little pen and pad, like, because I didn't get it when I was in high school. I'm gonna get it now. But let's take it back, right? Like, what are you guys hearing from the communities that you serve? You know, the parents that you're working with in the fellowship, the parents that you're doing one-on-one. Like, what's really going on in our community that you're hearing? And Thomas, I saw you smile, so we'll start with you.
One of the biggest issues that I hear is communication.
Like talk about that. Like, what do you mean?
When I say communication, I mean the way that some principals, some teachers talk to parents, some of the ways that they're talking to the kids. I know, you know, being from the community, that there's a level of respect that we give elders in different situations. So when I look at a child growing up, there's all types of things that may be going on in their household. There's all types of things that may be going on outside. There's all types of things that may be going on the internet and social sites. And then there's all type of things that may be going on in the schools. So when I look at that undeveloped mind, I think there needs to be more training for teachers in the way, not all teachers, but for some teachers, I think that there does need to be more training for the way that they, the tactics that are used to bring the best out in a child. We are under siege, so to speak, in the community. There's, you know, it feels like you're attacked for no reason. So a lot of times kids in public schools, they respond different than maybe kids in other, you know, districts or things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the biggest things. Another thing I hear a lot of is the parents who have kids with IEPs.
Okay.
It's hard to get meetings. They feel ignored. They may not always be email savvy, especially, you know, with it being COVID and all. They're told, no, they can't come to the school, but then someone else can come to the school, so they feel offended. Why can some people do this and some people can't do this? The respond rate, it takes too long. You know, I think it's more severe for us living in a community. Things happen really, really fast. So when a parent has to take time off of work, take time away from their significant other, take time away from their other kids, and try to take care of a situation, the response need to be a little faster, because, you know, you have fights, you know, you have so much gang violence going on. So things in the community, they happen really, really fast. It's, you know, I think teachers should also, and I don't want to come across as bashing teachers, because I think we have some great teachers, but I think there's more training that needs to be done as far as the relationship building with the parents. I think that could cut down on a lot of things if you could understand where someone is coming from. I think the kids, they look at the teacher, and I know a lot of kids in my community, they think the teacher they made it all. You know, they think they're not like them. So they don't see where, you know, teachers have bad days.
Yep.
You know, so that's what I mean when I say communication.
Yeah, and I'll say Miss Moffin says exactly, calling me by my first name, trying to talk over my head or beneath me, patronizing. And then I think Rhea says that's real time. It's a personalized learning plan would help with that. Big Nas says can't stand when someone tries to belittle me. Yeah, Sasha says that's a whole topic within. And then Joyce says the entire system is a failure. And again, I'ma just leave it right there where she says the entire system is a failure. And I would have to agree where we are right now. You know, I took some time back just in reflection, right? And I went back to look at a 2018 board meeting, and they were going over the MAP data. And Torvis, I'm gonna get you to chime in on this. And as he was going over it, I couldn't tell whether this was his 2021 presentation or the 2018 because things were still the same. When we looking at like our community, right? When we looking at, you know, they talking about putting a juvenile detention center out in Brick Church, which is, you know, becoming the new North Nashville or the new Bordeaux. They got the dumps in Bordeaux. They're taking the juvenile detention center because they probably want to put a hotel, and they're dumping it into the community, not really coming up with any resources. It's when we say the system, when I look at where we are, especially the criminal justice system, it's been a failure. It's been a failure for us, but it hasn't been a failure on the big plan. And going back to when we saw that documentary, like we had 100,000 students in metro schools in 1974, and today we're just at 81 or 83. And in a city where we got 1 million people, and it's only 27% African American, but the school system is majority minority. Shit, the system is failing. I mean, they don't want to put the real time into a system because it doesn't benefit them.
Yeah, I mean, because me and Thomas talk about it all the time. When you follow the money, it's all about the money part of it. The system's not failing when you can think about it, man. You're trying to go to school 13 years, and you get out and they can't function. They make bad decisions. It's a lot of stuff they don't know. They go to jail for 10 years. They still making money off of them. Now this child 30 years old, they get out, they can't read, they can't write, they got a feeling, and they can't do nothing. So what they gonna do? Go back into the system? It's an ongoing thing. So the system's not failing; it's doing exactly what it's designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, don't look at it as a failure. And Joyce is on her, so I better tell y'all. When I was talking about something earlier, if it wasn't for her doing all this live stuff, I don't think I could have done it. And y'all know I'm detailed. I know I go in, and I would have snapped by now on all this mess that she had to go through to do to figure this out, to figure out how to do this. I couldn't have done it. So I applaud the people that went through this lottery and this nigga. We came in school, it was like, you going to this school? That school, you gonna do this or that?
What was on your report card?
Yeah, she had everything laid out, my classes and everything. This is what you're gonna do to go to college. Because my guidance counselor was trying to set me up to go work at Tampa, a urban place. So I commend the people that is doing that for their kids.
Yeah, so Nicole says as we go back, because we got some really good comments, and I want to jump in. You know, she talked about Propel has really helped her navigate through very, very difficult process with her daughter. The communication and the relationship between parents and administration is horrible. But even going back to Miss Sonia Dobbs, she said teachers are trained in the pedagogy. They're not trained in interpersonal communication, problem-solving strategies, or conflict resolution, right? And that's true. And I'm going to tell you, like, this lady, Sonia Dobbs, in my personal experience, has been a real one. She has been a part of the system, but she has been a straight shooter. But I think the issue is when we take a step back, right? And again, it's three guys on here, so I'm gonna use a sports analogy, which is not the best analogy. But when the running game ain't working with the Titans, tighten up. When it ain't working with the Titans, they're going to bring in some new people. When our wide receivers like A.J. Brown and Julio keep getting hurt, they're going to bring in Golden Tate, right? And so if we notice that school communication is just not working between schools and families, not pointing any fingers, who steps in to say, man, we got to do a better job on communication? So one parent, it's this Remind app that I think a lot of schools use in the district. And a parent reached out. She was like, man, it ain't working for me. I'm trying to get the information. I send it to somebody in the district, and they were just like, and God bless them, they were like, what's the Remind app? And I just realized right then and there, this was the one of the tools that they use to communicate, and one of the people high up in the school system didn't know what it was. And I think that's where we really start to find the problems. When we think about, communication, Torvis talked about, IEPs, Thomas talked about, like bullying, like which can go into communication. Like a parent called me yesterday and said, a kid was exposing themselves and they got an IEP. And so she just wanted to make sure there was a plan, a safety plan around it. And it was really hard for her because she's worked in the classroom and her feelings were really hurt, as they should have been. And she had anger because she didn't even get a call back. And she was a parent who was always at the school. She was bringing the teachers snack packs, giving them bubbly, giving them Cheez-Its, in the teacher's lounge. And she didn't get a response back until late that night. And it wasn't even from anyone at the school. And so it made her take a step back and say, man, if I support this system and I'm all in, but when my child has an issue, not wanting special treatment, she just want that school communication, right? Like she just want the school to say, hey, that was an issue. We're going to fix it, right? It's not demonizing. It's not like hurting another student. It's saying your child has a right to be in a safe learning environment, and that child has a right to be in a safe learning environment. And then Joyce just jumps in and says, just too many kids.
My child. Communicate the same way about the child being in trouble.
And Torvis, we know you're working, but you breaking up. Torvis,
and I would say that I don't, nothing is completely fair, but I just don't think it's fair for some to say that, and I'm gonna say Black parents in the ghettos or on Section 8 or Section 9 or in the projects, I don't think it's fair for some to say that or insinuate that they don't care. And then once you start having groups of parents from that same community that it was said that didn't care, start to care and start to coming together, now, it's almost like you're treated like you're doing too much or you're getting on, a parent doesn't want to feel like they're getting on your nerves. So it's like you can't have it both ways. And I just know Propel, it's a difference when you're a part of Propel because it's not just you. When it's just you and you complain, it's not to say that, they can be I've known that when I've helped parents before they became Propel, it takes a little longer for them to get an answer. And once they come through Propel, and they know that they're Nashville Propel, it's almost like I get a lot of parents who tell me, oh, well, they changed their tone in the way that they talk to me, or they give me some respect now. Like, did you call them? And I'm like, no, I haven't given them a call yet. What did you say? And almost 90% of the time, a parent will tell me, oh, I just let them know I'm Propel, and I want to get the situation resolved, but I'm not by myself. And it immediately changes. It doesn't matter if they're in JC Napier, Dodge City, Village Trail, West Nashville, Madison, Antioch. It doesn't matter. As soon as they say that, it changes really quick. So sometimes things don't necessarily need to have to go so far, but when you're trying to do it on your own and you are a great parent and you do work, you have to understand you probably have to work most of the day. So having Propel is having somebody that has your back and will check in, help you check into situations and remind you about things, because you're talking about the future of your kid. And it's not always your fault that you have to work a full-time job or a part-time job. And even for those who are working from home, I mean, you have a lot of meetings you have to do. You still have a schedule. So that's one of the best things that I can say about being a part of Propel is it's almost like having a lawyer. You know, I may not know all of the situation. I may not know how much money the board has, got, for my kids. I may not be able to make it all the time when it comes to going to certain meetings that are decisions are made about my child, but I can make a phone call, or I can, get in touch with one of my brothers or sisters in Propel, and I can know rapidly.
I've heard a lot about bullying too, man. I don't know. I feel about 5 or 6 parents when it comes to a bullying situation, because it's like some of the kids, they be bullied and get in trouble, get kicked out, and the people that bully them is not. It's almost like they're afraid to deal with the problem, the ones that are bullying. So I've heard so much about bullying, and sometimes it's not really the kids on kids. It's some of the adults that's bullying on kids. So that's a real big issue. Yeah, man, it's a real big issue in the school. I mean, just imagine a child going to school. You got to worry about not knowing something in class, not looking stupid, worry about somebody trying to beat you up or try to fight you and all this stuff. These kids got a whole lot to deal with.
And Miss Bennett she touches on something, Tori. She says it should be a component in schools where parents are required to be on site with struggling kids, kind of like jury duty. The employer should be required to give the parent leave, and time should be compensated by the school system, which, that sounds like a far-fetched idea, right? No one has ever done anything like that. But I think that's what it leads to when they talk about the partnership. Like it's hard for a parent to try to survive in Nashville when the rent too damn high. The rent in 2011 was $500 for a 2-bedroom. Now the rent is $1,500, $1,600 for a 2-bedroom. And so when you think about leaving work, and they got all the jobs here in Nashville, right? But there's a lot of service jobs, right? You got the hotel, the Coliseum, the restaurant, which are good jobs, but it's hard to be able to pay the rent when you're doing jobs that are paying $8.25, $8.50, or $10, and they wondering why people not trying to work, because it's hard to pay for the gas. I don't know how much your gas is, Thomas, but in my smaller car, it costs $48 to fill up. So I can only imagine what you got in the Big Balboski or what you got, Torvis. But it has to be something different. And when we talk about the money, I think the reason we talk about the personalized learning plans, people say that's going to be hard to do and that it costs too much money. but we just watched them give away $1 million to an organization that isn't proven. We just watched them spend $75 million for contact tracing that they don't believe in around COVID. We still know they got $1 billion in TANF funds, which I think like food stamp funds that they have not paid out because they don't think people deserve it. $1 billion. And so it's working.
And I think, when it's said that it's hard to do, well, I think some hard things are going to have to be done unless we plan on continuing to be number 46 here on the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really, really, really behind as far as competing on the educational level here. So I don't think it, when it's said that it's hard, I don't think it's going to be easy for us to ever be in the 30s or make it to be in the 20s or, maybe the teens. Like, I'm sure it is going to be hard. But when is it going to start?
Come on now. Who would ever thought, Thomas, in 2021 we'll be getting into somebody else's car instead of a taxi to go somewhere, right? But now I ain't rode in a taxi in 8 years. Who would ever thought we'll be staying in somebody else's house overnight and paying them for it instead of going to a hotel? But it's innovation, right? And so things have changed so much in America. Who would ever thought you would be riding in the car with no hands? That was some Jetson stuff. Like, who would ever believe you could ride in the car? But again, the car industry said, look, we're going to make it electric, forget that gas, and you just put your hands up. Don't go to sleep, but just put your hands up and just coast. But that's innovation. I think that's what we're looking for in our public school system. Where is the innovation, right? Because you may teach your child different than I teach my child, but it may work for yours. And so I might say, sheesh, what Tom is doing, shoot, I'm going to try that too.
Well, it's almost like the fact that everything's on cryptocurrency now, but then the system is still on portfolios. Our system is on mutual funds. I'm like, y'all, you way behind. They doing something else, but you just not trying to come up to this point. When we gonna get on the point that everybody else is on and go forward with it? I know in other countries, man, they teaching kids. They had the same pandemic we had. Their kids are still learning and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and Rhea said, I don't know if y'all remember that song, but it was a Gangsta Boo song. Where them dollars at? Where them dollars? Hey, that's what we need to be asking, because the dollars, it's raining out here, money, and we don't got, we ain't got no access to the funds when it's raining like that. And I think, Candace says the schools don't even have enough people to stick to the IEP. So the question is, how many people at the school system going to have on hand to keep up with any new plan? I think, and this is my opinion, I think we got to get out of the box and one size fits all approach. I think what is shown us in Nashville and Tennessee, across the country, that the one size fits all approach just isn't working. And I think, back in the day, they said the car industry, the banking industry was too big to fail. But I mean, you see crypto, you see Tesla, like they're challenging the systems that have always been around. I think there has to be a challenge, Ms. Brewington, to the way we're doing it now. Like, what are some creative ways that you may know that work for you? Like, your kid the best. What is the best way that you think is going to work for your kid? And like, how do we make that happen, right? Like, how do we create more community? I just think people are just fed up with it's my way or the highway. And people with that approach, their response is, show me the highway.
I say the checks come, if they get a check in the system and it's going to say for John Little, Thomas Driving, Tova's Garden, that's 3 different checks, right? So that check is tied to that person. So if that check is tied to that person, you got to do something different in order to make sure that that money is tied to that person. So That's my feeling on it. If it's the check is individualized, let the product that you're putting together be individualized. So it shouldn't be hard to say that this money is for him. He needs this, and he needs that. This is the money for that. Not to mention that if you got so many more problems you got, the more money you're gonna get. So you can get more money allocated to these certain issues that person go on. But don't just take all their money, we're gonna put all this money here like Monopoly. And we're not gonna do nothing with this money. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna treat everybody the same. I don't care what you need, everybody's gonna eat the same way. You might be vegan, but we're gonna eat like this. So you gotta individualize everything we're doing.
Yeah, and Rhea has become more vocal because Joyce is on fire right now. Rhea says, in my opinion, taking time to communicate with a child's parent with intention, keyword, would help parents and teachers best serve the child. And so I think instead of running, I think what she's saying, instead of running so fast, like slow down. What's little Bobby need? What does he do well? What does he need help? What does Tyrone or Tyronisha, like, what do they need? I think understanding the kid, I think, will go a long way. And I just think, again, like the one size fits all approach, people burnt out. It ain't working. That's why they don't go to McDonald's. And well, some people go to McDonald's because it still be packed too, but a lot of people go to Chick-fil-A because they just treat you different. And it's the same fast food service. They get the food just as fast, if not faster, and it's quality food.
And it's individualized because if you want Polynesian sauce, how many you gonna serve? You're gonna get Polynesian sauce. They're not gonna put Chick-fil-A sauce and honey mustard in your bag if it's Polynesian because your order is really made to order for you.
Yeah. So look, man, this has been a really good, and I thank you guys for jumping on. And shout out to Sonya finally taking some time out. She's been going strong for 300 and I guess it's 355. Well, let's say 325 for now. We got a little bit of time left. But send Sonya some positive vibes. We're going to keep this train moving. Tomorrow, we got cohort 12, our class 12. We got the fellowship. That'll be class 3. We'll be going over some great things. It'll be interactive that Torvis and Tierra will be leading. Thank you guys for chiming in. Thank you, Miss Alyssa D. We're going to be seeing you soon at the pre-K. Thank you, Shamika, for being such a powerful parent. Thank you, Joyce, Rhea, Kendall, Miss Brewington, Big Nod, and anybody else that I missed. Like, thank you guys for tuning in. Like, this is what it's about. We're going to finish the year really strong because we have had a good year. And so next week, likely on Access Denied, we're just going to walk back through January to December, you know, how far we have come this year and then where we're going. So we'll see you guys and check us out. And it's a link on here. We are advising or hoping everybody to make sure you register to vote. And so we know in Nashville, I used to live out east and then I moved out to Hermitage. And so if you need to update your voter registration form, there'll be a link on here at the bottom of this page where you can do that. Just click that, sign up. It'll take you to the right place. Even if you are registered to vote, we know likely you have moved around. And so check that link out, send it to your friends. If you know somebody who has moved, send it to them too. We have an ambitious goal to make sure we have a certain amount of parents registered or updating their voter registration to close out this year. Anything else, Thomas and Torvis?
No, I mean, who said, let's just think that none of this is going to affect you, have nothing to deal with you. You got a child going through the system, it's going to affect you. Even if you don't have a child in the system, it's going to affect somebody in your family. Your nephews, your nieces, your neighbors, it's going to be somebody it's going to affect that you want to get this thing right. Because these other kids is going to be, I guess, taking care of us one day. So we got to make sure they get it right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and to any parent, feel free to simply send me an inbox, and let's talk about it.
All right, and with that, we will roll out. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. All right, let's see.